So your fantasy draft is this week, and you want to draft a Buffalo Bill. I'm going to tell you who to draft and where to draft them. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Billievers Talk. My name is Joe. Welcome, as we are less than 1 week away from the regular season. So what does that mean for a lot of you? It means fantasy football drafts. So we're going to talk a little bit about fantasy football. We're going to talk about our Buffalo Bills and the impact that they might have on your fantasy team. But first, remember guys, my name is Joe. If you're new to this channel, guys, please be sure to hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills news. Hit the subscribe button. If you hit the subscribe button and you want to hit the notification bell, YouTube notifies you when we put out new content. While you're here, go ahead and like this video, give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment. Let me know about your fantasy team. Let me know about some of your fantasy team questions when it comes to our Buffalo Bills. So we're going to talk about fantasy, and of course the first guy we want to talk about when we're talking about the Buffalo Bills and fantasy football is that quarterback position. So we are going to talk about the quarterback first, the quarterback position in fantasy football this year. You don't have to worry about that as early as in previous years. You look at Patrick Mahomes, he's going mid to late second round. So although you look at Josh Allen, you see he's the 11th ranked quarterback and see he's barely in the top 100 as far as average draft position. Well, that's why, because you can wait on a quarterback. And when you look at a guy like Josh Allen, here they're ranking him as a high QB number 2. I will completely disagree with that. I think Josh Allen is good enough to be a starting quarterback in fantasy football, in all fantasy football leagues. If you look at 2019, in 2019, Josh Allen was ranked as the 6th best fantasy quarterback. You think about those rushing touchdowns. 9 rushing touchdowns last season for Josh Allen, most among quarterbacks in the NFL last year. These numbers are not going to go away. You think about the Buffalo Bills offense, they add Stefan Diggs, they add 2 wide receivers in the draft, they add a star, or hopefully a star running back in the draft. So now you have a 2-headed monster at the running back position. You have 3 very talented wide receivers, possibly 4 if you include Gabe Davis. And now you still have those rushing stats, right? You still have the guy who can get out of the pocket and run the ball. We've actually heard that our offensive line is not playing as well as it was last season. Hopefully that changes when the season starts. But if that's the case, that means Josh Allen's got more opportunities to roll out, to make something happen with his feet, maybe to get in the end zone a few more times. Now, I don't see him duplicating 9 touchdowns, but maybe getting 6, maybe getting 7, because he's still a big quarterback. So he's still on 3rd and 4th and 1, going to be the guy that you're just going to have to jump over the goal line and sneak the ball in there. Now, I see that he's ranked as the 11th best quarterback in 2020, and I just don't think that's accurate. So I know that, Matthew Stafford was out most of last season, and if Matthew Stafford is the Matthew Stafford of old, he might surpass Josh Allen. I understand that. I understand that Ben Roethlisberger was injured for most of last season, and that if he's the Ben Roethlisberger of old, they can surpass Josh Allen. But right here, he was ranked 6th in 2019, ranked 11th right now. You have 5 quarterbacks, 5 more quarterbacks passing him. Not 2, 5. Who you got, Murray? I mean, who is passing this guy? I just don't see it happening that way when you talk about the weapons the Buffalo Bills have added, who we're going to talk about later in this episode, because you're going to want those guys on your fantasy team. It's just a matter of when and where. So for me, Josh Allen, even though I don't have him as a top 5 quarterback, even though I think his ceiling is top 5 potential. I think that Josh Allen's ceiling, as far as fantasy quarterbacks go, has top 5 potential. But I have him ranked as the 8th best quarterback. So I have him as a low-end quarterback number 1. Here they have him as average, as a high-end number 2. And guys, just so you know, I am using standard league, not PPR league. So when you do a PPR league, especially when we talk about some stats later, you might want to make some adjustments. But right here, you talk about Josh Allen ranked as the 11th quarterback, average draft position 94.6. If you want to take a chance on Josh Allen, because again, like I said, I think his ceiling's top 5, I would say he's the 8th best quarterback out of this draft class, which puts him up there with Aaron Rodgers, right? Because you still have to account for the rushing numbers as well. So I would put him around 8th in fantasy football. And so instead of drafting him at 94.6, I draft him a whole round higher. I would draft him around 80 82. So you're still getting good value, in my opinion. And you're also getting a very good quarterback number one. Again, a guy who has a top 5 ceiling, especially with you talk about Stefan Diggs, who we'll talk about later, John Brown, Cole Beasley, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Dawson Knox, if he can find a way in the end zone, and plus his ability to run the ball. I think we're looking at a top 8 quarterback. We're definitely looking at a QB1. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my take on Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. So we move to the running back position, and you're talking about 2 running backs that are going to take some numbers away from each other, right? We have a 2-headed monster in Buffalo, which is awesome, and we're very happy to see that. However, that means they're going to take some numbers away from each other. I think about D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart back in Carolina. Would love to see both these guys get over 1,000 yards. Would love to see both these guys have the numbers that those 2 guys had back in Carolina. But truth of the matter is, if you had either Jonathan Stewart or D'Angelo Williams, even though you were happy with their production, whenever you saw the other guy in there, you were a little upset because you knew that numbers were being taken away from the fantasy running back that you had. So when you look at Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, that's going to happen. No matter what, that's going to happen. You have Devin Singletary make a 40-yard run inside the 5-yard line. He's a little winded. They're bringing in Zach Moss. They're bringing in the tank to get you those touchdown numbers. So we'll see what happens in the running back room. It might lead to a couple headaches for fantasy football owners. But you look at Devin Singletary right now ranked as the 24th best running back on the board with an average draft position of 44.7. So to my point earlier about quarterbacks not going so highly, even though Josh Allen was ranked as the 11th best quarterback and barely in the top 100, you look at the 24th and 35th best running back according to fantasy football rankings, and they're still going higher than Josh Allen. But I think Devin Singletary should still be going higher than this. Okay, so in 2019, Devin Singletary finished 32nd among running backs. Remember, he tied Derrick Henry for the league lead in yards per carry for running backs with over 150 carries, right? So he tied Derrick Henry, a pretty good guy to be in the same conversation with. So how is he ranked 24th this season? He missed 4 full games last year, pretty much because you talk about the hamstring injury, you talk about all the stuff he missed in week 1 and week 2 as he was watching Frank Gore have the starting job. He pretty much missed 4 full games and still was able to get 32nd overall in fantasy numbers. So now you look at him, he's ranked 24th. I think he should be a little higher. You look at some of the couple of running backs ranked ahead of him. You look think about Todd Gurley. You know, Todd Gurley's been going downhill fast ever since his 2 good seasons with the Rams. You think about some of the other running backs on this list, and I'm not going to name them all because I don't want to insult anybody, but I think that Devin Singletary is better than some of these guys, and I think he's better than at least 6 of these guys. So I have Devin Singletary as my 18th best running back. Listen, he's no McCaffrey, right? He's no Ezekiel Elliott. He's not going to get you those type of numbers, but he's going to do a pretty good job, and I think he's going to be a top 20 running back. So he can easily be your running back number 2. If you're smart about it, if you draft well. And I think that means that you draft him somewhere in the high 90s, maybe low 30s, right? I would draft him somewhere between 29.2 and 31.3. That would be, late second, early third round. I think that's a perfect spot to get Devin Singletary as you stack up on your running back. So I moved Devin Singletary up. But when I take a look at Zach Moss, I look at his numbers, I look at his average draft position of 80.5, running back rank of 35, and I say, you know what, guys, that's about right. That's about right for Zach Moss. Unproven, right? Rookie season coming in. Now, the good news for anyone who's trying to pick up a rookie running back is they don't have the wear and tear that running backs normally have just due to the difference of practice schedule due to the pandemic. But still don't know what you're getting out of Zach Moss. And you still have to admit that Devin Singletary is going to be the main guy for the Buffalo Bills, at least in the early going. So you look at Zach Moss, you want him to do well, you want him to succeed. He's going to get a lot of touchdowns where Devin Singletary sets him up and he finishes it off. So I completely agree with that. But Frank Gore in 2019 was the 50th ranked fantasy running back, I should say. I apologize. So there's no reason to think that Zach Moss will do a whole lot better than that, right? He's going to get some touchdowns at the inside the 5-yard line, so you have to give him some numbers for that. But 35th to me is about right. Now, if you draft Devin Singletary, that might move Zach Moss up a little bit, so you get that 1-2 punch. However, if you're not thinking about drafting Singletary, you get Zach Moss for the touchdowns. I would think about maybe like a Jerome Bettis towards his second or third to last year in the league, getting a lot of touchdowns, not getting as many yards. Think about maybe 600 yards for Zach Moss, 6-7 touchdowns would be awesome, right? We would love to see that, but that means his fantasy draft stock is not as high as some of the other guys. So I would have Zach Moss around the 35th, which means he's ranked in the low 80s. So that's my prediction for the running back position. Again, let me know what you think. Let me know if you picked up either of these running backs in fantasy as we get to a very heavy loaded wide receiving group, right? If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, which most of you probably are if you're watching this video, you're very excited about this wide receiver group. But if you're a fantasy football fan, you're looking at this group and saying, okay, obviously Stefan Diggs is number one, but where do I draft these guys? Because each one of them is going to take receptions away from the other guy. Listen, there's only one ball on the field at all times, so no matter who gets the ball, who's open, those numbers are going to be spread out, especially if you include the fact that Gabe Davis is looking good as a rookie wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills as well. You see that Josh Allen has plenty of targets to throw the ball to, so it's going to be hard for one of these guys to really stand out. You think about the year Eric Moulds had 100 catches, right, which is currently the team history lead for receptions, right? He had 100. Peerless Price had 94. That was with Drew Bledsoe as their quarterback. And now I hope in Josh Allen's career he gets up to that standard. However, I'm not sure if he's there right now. So, and also you think about that season, the next best wide receiver only had 32 catches. So you definitely don't want that guy on your fantasy team. So if you look at these guys, Stefan Diggs currently average draft position is 57.4, ranked as the 23rd best wide receiver. I think that's a big knock on him. You talk about John Brown, currently average draft position 127, ranked 49th. And you look at Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley is ranked as the 173rd best wide receiver in the game, at least in fantasy purposes. I think that's ridiculous. In fact, I would say that Cole Beasley is going to score more fantasy points than either Stefan Diggs or John Brown. Not both. I'm not saying both. I'm saying that Cole Beasley is going to have the second most fantasy points for a wide receiver on the Buffalo Bills. That's my prediction. That might be a little bold prediction, but if someone already took Stefan Diggs, I would be tempted to take Cole Beasley before I took John Brown. That's just my opinion. I think that slot guy, he gets open in the end zone. I think that he is going to be a very good target for Josh Allen. Everyone gave Josh Allen a hard time for not using Cole Beasley more in that playoff loss to the Houston Texans. I don't think Josh Allen's going to make the same mistake twice. I think he's going to look for Cole Beasley more in this offense. So I see Stefan Diggs being ranked a little bit higher. I see John Brown maybe about there, maybe about at the 50th best wide receiver in fantasy football. But I could see Cole Beasley taking a huge jump up as far as the wide receiver group. And that might be 73. I might mistype the one there. But still, I would see Cole Beasley taking a huge step up with the wide receivers. So if I were drafting Buffalo Bills wide receivers, again, I think Diggs is getting knocked big time here. I think Diggs should be in the top 15 as far as wide receivers in the NFL, and I think he's going to prove that. So I would take Stefan Diggs probably in the third, maybe fourth round if he's available still, which again, unless you're in the league full of Buffalo Bills fans, he definitely should be. Average draft position 57.4. I would put it in the mid to high 30s, to be honest with you. John Brown ranks as 49th wide receiver. Again, probably about right. I would put John Brown probably about there. Again, Stefan Diggs is going to take some catches away from him. So although he had 72 catches last season, although he had over 1,000 receiving yards, not sure if that production is going to happen again this season. So I would put him around the 49th best wide receiver in the league. However, for fantasy points, I would also put Cole Beasley ahead of him. I would have Cole Beasley jump much higher on this list. I might even put Cole Beasley's average draft position, or if I was drafting Cole Beasley, I would put his draft position probably in the low 100s. I would put him out 105 maybe and pick him up in the 10th, 11th round. 9th or 10th round, that would be, depending on how many people in your league. But that's how strongly I feel about Cole Beasley this year, and that's how strongly I feel about Stefan Diggs. Unfortunately, someone's going to have to take a hit for that, right? Unfortunately, someone's going to have to take a hit for those numbers at the other wide receiver positions. I think it's going to be John Brown, unfortunately. Now, he's still going to put up his numbers. He's still going to be just fine, but I just don't think he's going to put up the numbers like he did last season. And like I said, I think Cole Beasley will have the second best numbers as far as wide receivers go for the Buffalo Bills. And if you want to be sneaky, if you want to be tricky, if you have a huge bench and you want to put him on there, go and put Gabe Davis on there. You want to take him now before he proves the damage he can do, and then people start picking him up. People start realizing exactly what he can do for their fantasy team. You want to talk about like the special teams, right? You have Bass in there, and for anyone who likes Bass, again, he's not someone that's going to be highly touted as far as kickers go, since no one knows what to expect from him. So if you want Bass, unless again you're drafting with a bunch of fantasy players who are Buffalo Bills fans, I would pick him up last round, right? Pick him up. I believe you should always pick up your kicker in the last round, right? Maybe second to last round if you want the top kicker. But I don't care what my kicker is. I really don't, because at any time a kicker can have a good game. At any time a kicker can have a bad game, unless it's Justin Tucker, who never has a bad game. Maybe that's the type of guy that's worth drafting in the second or third to last round, because, man, he can really do numbers for your fantasy league. He really can, so you don't want to knock him. But if you're looking at Tyler Bass from the Buffalo Bills, there's no reason to put any pressure on it. You pick him up with your last pick, again, unless you're with a bunch of Buffalo Bills fans. Then you might want to pick him up the second to last round just to make sure you get him. But I'm not expecting a lot of great numbers from Bass this year. I've said it in his videos before. As Bills fans, we have to be ready to expect some growing pains when it comes to Bass, but that's what we'll get. When it comes to the Buffalo Bills defense / special teams, our defense is going to be solid. However, in 2019, we ranked as the 11th best fantasy defense. So our defense did not do great with fantasy numbers. But I think this year, maybe there's a little bit of improvement. Definitely going to be in the top 10. I would select them as my top 5 defense in fantasy. You can't project turnovers. You can't project turnovers for touchdowns. So for me, when it comes to defense, I'm looking at who's the best defense all around in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills are definitely a top 5 defense in the NFL. So that's where I would pick up the Buffalo Bills defense, maybe 4th, 5th. For me personally, I would probably take the Buffalo Bills defense before any other defense, just because I am a Bills fan. But if you're a fantasy football fan, I probably would have them as the 4th or 5th best defense. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Did I forget anybody in fantasy football? I don't see Dawson Knox being a big fantasy football guy. So I think you could pick him up as a free agent if you needed to. I don't see many other players being huge free agent impact players or fantasy football impact players for the Buffalo Bills. Would love to be wrong, but I just don't see it happening. So again, let me know what you think in the comment section. I look forward to hearing from you. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Good luck to everyone's fantasy team. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.